Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to move on from Jon Jones. Let it go. Let it go. I understand that Jon Jones is probably the GOAT. If he's not the GOAT, he's one or two. Him, George St. Pierre, there's a couple other names you could throw in there. We could go back and forth on that all day long. I'm not here to get into exactly what happened and kind of be like, get into the news and all that kind of stuff. I'll throw some screenshots up for you that kind of show what's went on if you're unfamiliar with what, recently just transpired with Jon Jones and the drug testing and all these different things. I'm here to discuss the headache that is Jon Jones, right? When we look at professional sports, especially the NFL as well, I understand the UFC is a little bit different. There's no mystery. Dana White is a huge Jon Jones fan. It's very evident because Jon Jones has had so many slip-ups, so many different issues, so many different scenarios and cases over the past several years that have just been pushed to the wayside, have been just kind of excused, dismissed by the UFC, and whatever. I mean, it's kind of just went on for an extended period of time. But we are at the point where, like in the NFL, when the BS starts to outweigh the productivity, it's time to move on. It's time to move on. Guys, Jon Jones, the facts are the facts. Jon Jones, since the Dominic Reyes fight that he basically lost to Dominic Reyes, whether you're a Jon Jones fan or not. I mean, I like Jon Jones. He's been sensational. Every time the guy gets in there, there's no doubt about it. The guy's never lost. Jon Jones has done incredible things inside the sport. He has fought one time since that fight with Dominic Reyes that feels like ages ago. He's fought one time against Sealgon. Everybody wants to pick on Stipe Miocic and how inactive he's been. Stipe Miocic is kind of a different story, right? He has not fought since the new Venom fight kits have entered the UFC. We have not seen Stipe since he was, KO'd by Francis Ngannou. That's a different, thing that we're going to get to as the video progresses here. But Jon Jones, it's time to move on, guys. Like, just because he goes out there, he beats Sealgon, who we know has very questionable takedown defense. It was a great stylistic matchup for Jon Jones. Yes, he took the time away to bulk up and get ready for heavyweight. Jon Jones has been incredibly inactive over the past 4 or 5 years. He's now the heavyweight champion who, yes, he was booked to fight Stipe Miocic at MSG, a few months back. Yes, I can give you that. But it didn't happen. It's an injury. There was an injury. He's now sidelined. And we're now at a point where we have this man from the UK and Tom Aspinall, who's one of the greatest heavyweights that we've ever seen in terms of movement, athletic ability, being so well-rounded, who is the interim champion, who stepped up on short notice to fill in because the Jon Jones-Stipe Miocic fight fell by the wayside. Decided to go in there against the scariest power puncher in the division outside of Ngannou because he left, the UFC. Goes in there without hesitation, takes on Sergey Pavlovich and knocks him out and finishes this man. And yet we're still out here hanging on to the fact of, Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic should be next. The hell it shouldn't. Scrap the fight, vacate the belt, and move it on, and let's get this division moving. Let's book Tom Aspinall versus Sealgon. Let's book Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blades. There's unfinished business there. Tom Aspinall, in my eyes, is the heavyweight champion inside the UFC. You can sit there. I don't care if you're a diehard Jon Jones fan. I have been a fan of Jon Jones for years, guys. He is unquestionably one of the greatest the sport has ever seen. There is no denying when he is in there, he is one of the most talented fighters we have ever seen. But the BS is starting to outweigh the productivity. The guy has had how many issues over the past few years, and he has fought one time. Stipe Miocic, everyone wants to rag on him for being inactive. Jon Jones has fought one time in the past 4 or 5 years. Like, Stipe Miocic has been out since 2021. Jon Jones fought Dominic Reyes, 2020? And then he goes in there and beats Sealgon very quickly. It was impressive, no doubt about it. And I understand that Jon Jones' argument. Look at what I've done in the sport. I've done some incredible things. I shouldn't have to vacate a belt. It's like, dude, you literally, every time we turn around, you're getting yourself into trouble. Now, whether these things are true or not that are happening with Jon Jones is kind of a different animal. But, we don't exactly know all of the details. But what we do know is it seems like when this man, it's just always something with Jon Jones. It's always something. It's always something, and it's holding up the division. It's holding up the division because who knows what's going to come from this. And I hate when the UFC sits up there and says, What we love about, what makes the UFC so great is the best fight the best. They book the fights. In boxing, we don't always get the best fights, and that's always been the Achilles heel of boxing is the top guys never fight each other because they want to keep, stay undefeated. They want to do this, they want to do that, and it's like, that's fine. I get it. Make a bunch of money, not have to fight the best guys at times. Like, I'm all for that too. That sounds like a great deal to me. And then in the UFC, they make the fights that the fans want to see, and they book the best possible matchups most of the time, not always, that are available. And for whatever reason, Dana White and the UFC are stuck on this heavyweight matchup that nobody wants to see anymore. Feel free to comment below if you're still in that category, in that ballpark, that you still want to see Jon Jones versus a washed-up Stipe Miocic probably at this point. We haven't seen Stipe in so long. These guys are getting old, man. Like, Stipe has not fought since the new Venom fight hits. And we're just going to have Stipe Miocic walk right back into a title shot against Jon Jones, who's had one fight at heavyweight, they've literally been holding up the division to book this fight. It still hasn't happened. We have Tom Aspinall, who's an interim heavyweight champion, who's clearly at this point, probably the best guy in the division. The fight to make would be Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Jon Jones and the UFC clearly are kind of trying to dodge that. They want the Stipe. They're so stuck on this Stipe fight. I get the legendary aspect of Stipe. He's the most credentialed heavyweight of all time, basically, and Jon Jones is a legend of the sport. And I've been on the record saying, guys, I think no matter what the outcome is for Jon Jones or Stipe Miocic, they both retire after they fight each other. I really believe that. I've said that since the minute they booked that fight. I'm like, that's it. Both of these guys, after they fight each other, whether they win the belt or not, they're done. These young, hungry guys are coming up. I'm not saying they're ducking people. I'm just saying the UFC heavyweight division inside that top tier, Tom Aspinall is the future of the division. He's developing a big fan base. He's over, in the UK, whenever they book these big events there, man, Tom Aspinall is going to be the guy headlining. He is an incredibly skilled light heavyweight. We know how he moves, man. He moves like a welterweight out there. He's got incredible hand speed. He has good takedowns. He has good submissions. Like, Tom Aspinall is the full package. The fight to make is him and Jon Jones. But to sit here and continue to hang on to the Jon Jones thing is becoming exhausting, it's becoming irritating, and it's becoming infuriating as MMA fans, guys. Like, I understand, it's nothing to do with, I'm not saying to cut Jon Jones, I'm not saying to do any of that. Like, Jon Jones is one of the greatest of all time. I've given him his due. But we have to stop holding up the division because of Jon Jones. And you cannot trust Jon Jones with the belt with an extended period of time away from the cage, that some BS is not going to happen that causes a rift. Like, I feel like the UFC, half the reason these cards are this is me just being, joking, but it seems like half the time these cards that are so terrible that are coming out is like because they're so distracted trying to clean up these PR messes with Jon Jones. Like, every time we look around, it is always something with Jon Jones, is it not? It's always something. And while we're still trying to deal with that BS when this man has fought one time in the past 4 or 5 years, we have this young, hungry guy in Tom Aspinall who takes a fight on short notice to help save UFC 295. So did Pavlovich. He stepped in as well. Goes out there, takes on the scary power puncher in Sergey Pavlovich, knocks him out, wins the interim belt. And we're still sitting here talking about Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic when everyone else is like, man, let's just get Tom Aspinall back in there. And the fight to make is Jon Jones versus Aspinall. What do you all think? What do you all think? Is it time? Move on from Jon Jones? Should we be focusing on Tom Aspinall? What do you guys think the UFC should be doing? But if you made it to the end of this video, comment Johnny Bones and like this video, comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you are not. I appreciate you all. See you next time.